Today, we're diving into a philosophy for securing your relationship that might just be the complete opposite of everything you've ever been told. It's drawn from Alina Chamberlain's book, She Who Awakens, and trust me, it flips conventional wisdom right on its head. So let's get into it.
Right out of the gate, Chamberlain hits us with the core idea. Instead of pointing all your energy outward, monitoring his phone or constantly asking for reassurance, the real work is all internal. It's a huge shift from trying to control him to focusing on, well, you. So what does that actually look like in practice?
Okay, so the first big concept here is this fundamental change in your entire mindset. The book calls it the journey from a state of dependency to a really powerful state it calls absolute sovereignty. And this idea? It's the foundation for literally everything else we're about to talk about.
So what does it even mean to be a sovereign woman? Well, according to the book, she's a woman whose security and sense of self don't come from her partner at all. It comes from her own high value. The goal isn't to play games or control the situation, but to become so centered in your own worth that the partnership just naturally becomes secure.
In this metaphor, wow, it perfectly sums up the end goal. The book uses this incredible imagery. You become the indispensable planet that he orbits. The whole idea is that the thought of losing you, of his entire universe just collapsing, becomes his single greatest fear. And that fear, that's the ultimate incentive for him to stay true.
So how do you actually build this sovereignty? This next part is where the rubber meets the road. It's all about the practical application, shifting your focus inward to grow and cultivate your own vibrancy, what the book calls your personal radiance.
This slide lays out a really stark choice, right? Over on the left, you've got what the book calls the stagnation trap. That's the dangerous thought that if a woman stops scrubbing, her partner might start thinking, who else would want her, and feel like he can look around. But the sovereign solution on the right is to prioritize being an interesting person. You are always evolving for yourself, first and foremost.
So what does creating this vibrant life actually look like? Well, the book breaks it down into 4 key areas. You've got to continue learning and growing your mind, invest in your physical appearance, maintain your own social life and hobbies, and keep pursuing your professional goals. It's really about building a full, engaging, exciting life for yourself that just happens to exist within the partnership.
Now, this next idea is super interesting, and you gotta understand the nuance here. The book brings up the strategic flirt. And let's be clear, this is not about being unfaithful, not at all. It's about embodying a kind of confidence that sends a clear signal. You're a desirable woman who chooses to be with him, not one who's stuck or feels like she has no other options. It's an internal mindset that just subtly reminds him of your incredible value.
Okay, so we've talked about you as an individual. Now let's zoom in on the couple and focus on building deep, multifaceted intimacy. The book argues that way too many couples slide into what it calls a functional partnership, basically becoming roommates who run a household together, and they completely lose that lover dynamic.
So how do you stop that from happening? The book gives us 2 really powerful shifts in how you approach intimacy. First, you have to actively evolve the erotic script, which is a fancy way of saying you have to consciously stop sex from becoming boring and routine. And second, you have to respect the drive, which totally reframes his desire. It's not a chore for you, but an invitation to connect on a deeper level.
And the result of all this proactive work is, well, it's huge. The book claims that by becoming a laboratory of pleasure together, you're not just having fun, you're actually building what it calls a fortress of trust. A bond so incredibly strong that it becomes pretty much immune to any outside temptation.
But intimacy isn't just about the physical side of things. The book warns about this emotional thread it calls the guardian angel vacuum. This is what happens when the vibe at home becomes negative. Lots of nagging, belittling, and it creates this emotional void. And that void is a golden opportunity for some outsider to swoop in and play the supportive guardian angel.
So, the big question is, how do you prevent this vacuum from forming in the first place? Well, the solutions are pretty clear. You have to consciously shift out of a mothering role and into a partnership. You have to genuinely admire his successes. And, this is a big one, you have to engage in shared expansion. Basically, make sure life together is always an adventure through new experiences. All right, this brings us to a really core psychological concept in the book. This is a big one. The idea is that you can't be his shadow. You can't watch him 24/7. Your real protection is actually inside his head. It's this unconscious cost-benefit analysis that happens long before any line is ever crossed.
So the whole goal is to rig this internal calculation in your favor. According to the book, his brain is going to unconsciously weigh 3 critical questions whenever he's faced with temptation.
Question number 1. Now, if you've been doing the work, cultivating your own radiance, building that deep intimacy, the answer to this question should be not much, right? Because you've already created this vibrant, amazing world together.
Then question 2 really ups the ante. And notice the language here. It's not just about losing a wife, it's about losing his sovereign woman. The cost just feels massive because he knows he'd be losing an irreplaceable, high-value partner who is the absolute center of his world.
And then there's the final question. The knockout punch, really. The power here is in his complete and utter certainty about the answer. He has to know, without a single shred of doubt, that infidelity means he loses you. Forever. And this isn't some threat you scream when you're angry. It's just a fundamental reality of your own self-worth.
And all of this leads us to the final, and honestly, maybe the most powerful part of this whole philosophy, the magnetic pull of your own independence.
This is the real secret sauce, right here. The book argues that the single most magnetic quality a woman can have is this inner freedom. It's that deep, unshakable core belief that you will be absolutely fine, happy even, with or without him. This lack of fear, this sense of being whole all by yourself, that's described as the ultimate turn-on.
And get this, the book claims this mindset puts you in a pretty exclusive club, the top 1% of women who never stop developing. So it frames this inner freedom not as something common, but as the mark of a truly rare and exceptional woman.
So, see how the entire dynamic just flips on its head? He doesn't stay with you out of obligation or because he feels trapped. He stays because he is actively, maybe even desperately, afraid to lose the powerful, magnetic force that you've become in his life. He works to keep you.
Of course, none of this works without a rock-solid foundation of clear boundaries. You have to communicate your non-negotiable stance on infidelity calmly and clearly once. And because you've built your own sovereign life, it's not an empty threat. It's just a statement of fact rooted in the absolute trust you have in your own future.
And we're going to leave it on this final takeaway from the source material, which just wraps everything up so perfectly. It suggests that the ultimate key to a devoted partner isn't found in controlling him, but in loving yourself so completely that he is inspired to constantly earn his place by your side. A pretty powerful thought to end on.
Discover the secrets to nurturing your lifestyle and love style at wishforlove.org.